Hello everyone and welcome back again. Today we'll start looking on the last step of concrete production or concrete casting, the steps of concrete casting. So after batching the concrete, then we mix it, handle, transport the concrete, place it, and compact the concrete here. So after compaction, then we'll go with the last step, which is curing of concrete. Compaction is the last step here for the concrete in the fresh state, the fresh concrete. But curing the concrete is happening when the concrete start to gain a little bit strength, which is will be start for the day after. So if we cast the concrete today, then the day after we start curing process. So what is the curing? Curing of concrete is defined as the process of preventing the loss of moisture from the concrete and maintaining the satisfactory temperature for the concrete. So if we cast today, we come the day after, then we know that concrete, the developing of the strength of the concrete, which is a function of time, and the strength, which is the function of the hydration reaction, which is the same as the developing of the strength. So the concrete start developing the strength until it get 28 days, then it will almost be constant. The strength of the concrete will be constant. So from the day one up to 28 days, the hydration reaction is continued. And the hydration reaction is the result of the hydration reaction is the calcium silica hydrate. So the more calcium silica hydrate is the higher strength. So the hydration reaction start from day one and continued up to 28 days. So as long as the hydration reaction is working or continued, the higher strength of the concrete or the good quality of concrete. So hydration reaction is we already discussed this one, which is cement react with water. It gives us calcium silica hydrate in addition to the calcium hydroxide. So the cement, it keep reacting with water up to 28 days. If we up to 28 days, and we keep producing calcium silica hydrate, and the more calcium silica hydrate is the higher strength. So we need to make sure that the hydration reaction is continued without affecting any external factor that could affect this reaction. So what's curing? Curing actually, we are trying to make sure that we don't lose the water from the concrete by evaporation as a result of the sun, hot weather, or whatever factors. So we sorry. So we are trying to avoid the loss of the water from the concrete. This is simply what is the purpose of concrete curing. So the last step here is the concrete curing. We start curing the concrete normally the day after the casting. And how do we cure, or what is the purpose, is by preventing the loss of water from concrete. How we can make it? We have different methods that we will go through here, how to avoid the loss of water. But before this one, we need to discuss also here different issues and other issues. Curing provide adequate moisture, temperature, and time to allow concrete to achieve the desired properties for its intended use. Curing procedure maintains proper moisture and temperature to ensure continuous hydration. As we said, we need to make sure that the concrete is moisture in order to avoid the loss of water. And since we start losing water, it will start affecting the hydration reaction. And the hydration reaction, if it's affected, it will affect the strength of the concrete. In normal condition, curing should be continued at least for 7 days from the day of concrete casting. So at the very early age of the concrete, at the very early age, at day seven, we should continue curing the concrete with water up to at a very early age for 7 days. This is the normal condition, but in some conditions that if we are using different mineral admixtures, special concrete, it can go up to 10 days. The first 10 days we need to continue curing the concrete. Evaporation will be higher in low humidity weather. If the weather has low humidity, then we start to lose some water. In high wind, also we start to lose water. And or if in the temperature of concrete is very high, the concrete is exposed to dry and hot weather condition. This is all a factor that helps to losing more water from the concrete. Here is the method of concrete curing. Water spray. This is the most common way of concrete curing. This is the day after we demold the concrete or remove the formwork. Then we start to spray the water on the surface of the concrete in order to maintain the moisture and avoid the evaporation of the concrete from inside the concrete, the water required for the hydration. Another method is wet covering. We cover the surface of the concrete by nylon. This covering will prevent also the loss of water by evaporation. Membrane curing. This is also another method that block the water from evaporation. So it's a liquid membrane forming materials containing waxes, bitumen, waterproof paper, and plastic films. All these material that we apply on the surface, wax, waterproof material, bitumen, or whatever material that help to act like a block on the surface and doesn't allow the water to evaporate from the concrete body. Membranes serve as a physical block to prevent loss of moisture from concrete. So the idea of concrete curing, or the purpose, is to avoid the loss of water from the concrete body and avoiding the evaporation of the concrete. How we make it? By three different ways. It can be either by spraying the water on the surface. It can be either covering the surface with nylon or whatever material that can help to avoid the concrete water from evaporation. Membrane curing, also applying wax, bitumen, waterproof material that help us to block the concrete surface. If we are curing in special condition, like in a hot weather, if we are in a country that is has a hot weather and we are casting in this day, then we need to consider curing process. We need to focus on the curing process. In hot weather, exposed concrete must be kept cool. We need to cool down the concrete temperature, both during the mixing and throughout the curing process. When we casting the concrete, when we mix the concrete, and also when we cure the concrete, we need to make sure we cool down the concrete temperature for the same purpose, for not losing the water or not avoiding the evaporation of the water from the concrete body. Problem in hot weather concerning due to the faster rate of hydration and the increased rate of evaporation. We know that concrete is when cement get in touch water, those start chemically react, and the hydration reaction, and any reaction is getting fast, accelerate in a hot condition. So in hot weather, and we have a chemical reaction, then we start to have the hydration reaction is going fast and fast because of the hot weather or the hot condition. So this one, it will increase the temperature of the concretes, and together with the hot weather from outside, then we will have faster loss of water by evaporation. When evaporation is not controlled, if we couldn't control the evaporation, it will result to a thermal cracking. Then we start to see shrinkage, cracking on the surface of the concrete. So here are some help or some method in order to cool down the temperature of the concrete and to reduce the loss of the and avoid the concrete losing of water and avoiding the evaporation of water. The first recommendation is to use cooling the mixtures water with chipped ice. So we are trying to use ice for the concrete mixtures, chipped ice. Shading the aggregate storage and water tank. Cover the storage of the aggregate or the water tank. Painting the trunk mixer white. Painting the trunk mixer white in order to reflect and doesn't absorb the heat from the sun or reflect the heat. Avoid overmixing. The overmixing, it will accelerate the evaporation of water or the loss of water. Use retarder in the mix. This is a retarder is kind of admixtures that slow down the hydration reaction. So this is in general the factors and the purpose of curing. Curing is the last method of concrete casting, and it will very much affect the quality of the concrete and the durability of the concrete. And you need to know the purpose of what is the curing, the purpose of curing, techniques of curing. So we'll stop here and we'll see you in the following session.